Hey everyone. Uh, Pretty good signal from Radio Thailand, 15590. Signing on in English, Radio Thailand, 15590. One of the best signals I've seen all summer. Probably has something to do with solar activity. So 15590. This is the North American service of Radio Thailand, direct from Thailand. And it's peaks at S9 at times on the SDR. Pretty good. Hope everybody's all right. So everything looks good here. Just gonna move this. Like this. And this like this. Gonna open the beer. Gonna open the beer. Wow, 15590 not making it to Colorado. Although they do at 0:30 they shift to the West Coast. So let me just open the beer. It's a don de Dieu, gift from God. And here you go. Yeah, look, in 30 minutes. Usually, what they do, Matt, is they do 30 minutes to the East Coast from 0 to 0:30. They sign off for like 30 seconds and sign back on. And that time, they actually beam the West Coast of North America. So not too bad. I tried because I knew that solar activity is a little higher. We've got like the solar flux is at like 75. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try that because this morning KBS on 15575 was actually not too bad in English. Oh man, that don't you hate that when you have a frequency you want to listen to, and on that frequency there's a buzzing or an interference that just lingers there? Okay, let's just go back up here. Welcome everybody, and this is the Shortwave Radio Live Show. We are live twice a week with a week off for the month of August. So last week I was not live and took a week off, which was really nice. Kind of recharged the batteries a little bit. And we are back this week with the show. Next week we'll be off again. So this week we have Wednesday and Friday. And tomorrow I am going to Perry Island with a couple of radios, probably the ICOM ICR30 again. And I don't know, I was thinking of maybe just the XH data. I don't know yet. I kind of decided in the last minute what radio I'm going to bring. I'm not going to bring a lot because I don't want to travel with a lot of stuff. So I just bring the portables. I'll maybe bring like, you know, a little bit of wire in my with it in my pockets or something, and for a main shift antenna if I want to, but it's going to be light travel, and so probably good chance is going to be XH data D808 and ICOM ICR30 portable together for tomorrow at Perry Island. It's supposed to be hot, but hey, let's go. You know, I don't like it when it's too hot. There's a lot of trees and everything, so I'm going to just stay in the shade and listen to the radio outdoors and have fun. So this is a live show where we talk about shortwave radio and radio in general, and we have a lot of fun doing so with amazing people that are big fans of radio and shortwave radio. And we are here twice a week, like I said, in general, and we talk about everything that is our major passion of everything radio. And yes, radio is still a big thing. And we might start thinking that the internet and all of that is taking over, and that maybe it's something that we aren't doing anymore. But it's untrue. First of all, there's the magic of a box receiving invisible waves from the other side of the world, like Radio Thailand right now. And the internet has not at all replaced radio because it doesn't have the same content. Actually, I like to say, and I think the internet is more of something that is helping our hobby right now, because there's so much information. I always say when I started in back in 1982, I mean, I knew nothing. I had the instruction manual and of my radio, and that's pretty much it. And there was no way of really, I didn't know where to look, or where I didn't even know that clubs existed. I was 13 years old. I just didn't know. And of course, you learn with time, and you listen to shortwave stations. One of the sources of information of what's out there was the mailback shows from the stations. I still remember. I pretty much think that I've learned that CIDX, the Canadian International DX Club, existed through Radio Canada International. I remember the first time I stumbled on Glenn Hauser's World of Radio, long time ago, and thinking, oh, this is interesting. But, not thinking, I mean, after a few days, you're like, what time was it? And what day did I listen to? Was it Sunday or Saturday? And what time was it? And what was the frequency? You didn't note down anything. But you knew there was this show that talked about shortwave that existed. And with time, you learned what's out there. And when you joined a club back in the 80s, that was a big opening. The clubs would give you a lot of information about what's out there and what publications exist, and explain what all of this is all about. And at the same time, make you feel like you're part of something, because you kind of notice that there are people out there listening to shortwave. You're not alone. And, there was nothing like this, that people just join and we're like all together. I like to say it because it does feel like it. We are here, but it feels like, we're all in the room. Even though I don't see your faces for most of you, it feels like we're all in a room enjoying the same thing. And when the show ends, it feels weird, because it feels like I just left a party full of people. And of course, there's a Facebook group that helps now, because we can stay in contact there. And, we're in 2020, or in August. We're at almost mid-August. We're August 12th today. And one of the things that is interesting is it's funny that it came to this, because we were talking about taking a break of radio sometimes and so on. And I'll be honest, apart from here and there leaving the radio on, I took a break of radio for the most part. Even last week, when I went to Parc Bellerie, which is on the east side of town, which was a lot of fun, because you see the boats, and it's really, really nice to get down close to the St. Lawrence River. One of the things that's interesting is I had the Sea Crane radio. I had the ICOM. And I don't know, I spent maybe 5 or 6 hours there. 6 hours, roughly. And I did a few radio videos, and I did a few radio moments, because I wanted to do a few videos for the channel. But honestly, I was in a mode of I just want to be outside, enjoy beautiful weather in a big park, and just, radio was not necessarily on my mind. I think I'm in that moment where, if I look at this week, every day that so every day this week until now, like even yesterday, Tuesday, Monday, even Sunday, I listened a little bit to the radio, but I mostly did something else. I watched TV and watched some Netflix and stuff like that. Um, I'm kind of in this moment where, you know what, I'm taking kind of a radio break at the same time that I'm doing a little, break of the live shows every 2 weeks. And it does feel good to do so, because I think everybody needs to do so. I think everybody needs to take a break from radio, and I'm not talking just about radio. I'm talking about, any hobby. I think that we all do from time to time. It's important and it feels good to take a break of all of it and do something else. Do something that is changing our minds. And what is nice is for the past 3 weeks, I've been going a lot more outside to parks and doing stuff. And it feels good because I had not taken a lot of time for myself. I had not taken a lot of time to just enjoy being outdoors and and have the feel that you don't have to do nothing. You know, I think when I used to work, a 9 to 5 job, one of the biggest things, and I think everybody is in that same mood, when we do a 9 to 5 job, we are looking forward for those moments when we are out of the job and doing stuff that we like and take time for ourselves as much as we can. And I think it feels kind of almost the same when I take some time off lately. It's as if I'm taking a break from a job. And that's why I think it was important for me to take, a little break and do like every 2 weeks for now and all of that. And recharge the batteries. And, at some point I'm going to come back full swing on the hobby, and we'll have shows every week, and it's going to feel good. I think taking a break is a good thing to do from time to time to enjoy our hobby and enjoy what we do again. It's a good thing. So there's a beautiful chat room if you want to join everybody here, which with amazing people as usual. And there's a Facebook group which has the same name as the channel here, official SWL channel. And so I hope you enjoy that. And cheers, everybody. I'm going to take my first sip of beer. So the good news that we have, sun has been active. Active is a big word compared to anybody that saw what solar cycles could be. But we've had constant sunspots for the past couple of weeks. Another one's coming into view. All sunspots of cycle 25. That's really cool. And we also learned that we finally passed minimum. So the official minimum of the solar cycle was in December of 2019. It's now official. The numbers are showing us that we've passed that minimum. So we can say goodbye to that minimum and think that slowly things are going to pick up. And they've been picking up a little. And Radio Thailand 15590 for me is an example of just a little bit more activity. And solar flux isn't that different. The solar flux goes from 60 to 400. And for the past year, it's been hovering around 68, 69, 70. We have 74, 75 right now. and it's enough to show that the shortwave bands are better. And I mean, it's just a few points. I mean, I've seen a lot of posts this week actually on the Facebook group of people saying, wow, is it me or propagation is kind of pretty amazing? And I think part of it has to do with that. Part of it also has to do that with another thing. Remember that we've passed the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, which was June 21st, around June 21st. We're a month and a half done in our summer right now. And that, even a little more. And that is kind of showing also there's a change, a slow change in propagation. We start seeing that we're getting back into a pattern of, the equinox in September, which for me is some of the best times for listening. I mean, September, October, March, April, roughly, are for me some of the best times for radio listening. And I think this is also, we're starting to see a change in propagation. We see that the days are getting shorter in the northern hemisphere. I mean, we lost 30 minutes, more than that, for almost, like, we lost about 40 minutes here in the sunset at night. 40 minutes. Sun in like on June 21st, the sun sets at almost 9 p.m. in Montreal, local time. It's setting at like 8:10 right now, so it's like 50 minutes, 40 to 50 minutes difference. And I mean, there's also that 40 to 50 minutes difference in the morning where the sun rises later. So all of that is kind of showing us that, slowly we're moving on, and time flies. I don't know what's happening. We're kind of, I think we're in a time warp of some sort, because when I look at all the, what's happening with COVID, I don't know, it kind of distorted our year in a very weird way. And things are sure different. It's hard to recognize a normal life right now, whatever is normal. I think the fact that I went to the park and with my radios and did a little bit of radio listening and all of that is the closest thing to what is a normal life, because it's an activity that I do, that I enjoy, and that I don't have to wait in line with a mask to do, or, the only part with the mask is when I take the bus or the subway. But apart from that, once I get off the bus or get off the subway, I can take off the mask and go to that park and just enjoy some beautiful weather and some radio. It's kind of a normal life moment. Once on Perry Island, that's what I noticed actually 3 weeks ago. Perry Island. At Perry Island, it was like, wow, this is normal life. This is the life I'm used to. It looks normal. People in the park look normal. Everything looks like nothing has changed. Of course, then you take the subway and you're like, yeah, I'm back in that weird 2020 life that I don't recognize, and I think that also feels good, because for a moment, you're just back to, it's as if everything is normal suddenly, like it was before. And I think that also feels good. And I'm looking forward tomorrow to Perry Island. I almost went to Perry Island today, actually, because I woke up and I thought, you know what, maybe I should. But then again, there's a few things for YouTube that I wanted to do, and I knew that there was a new version of Windows 10 for insiders and all of that. It's Wednesday, so I thought, no, do what you have to do today, and tonight you have a live show anyway. And tomorrow, Thursday, you've got nothing really special. Do just a few little things you need to do, and then just head off to Perry Island and enjoy your day, and enjoy your normal life for a few hours, with some radios. So, hello everybody. Shady Pyro 90, nice to have you here. Shelly, nice to have you on board. Never thought I'd be Hurley. I'm charging my radio and knitting a baby blanket. Cool. Bobby Burgess in Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. Nice to have you here. Shady Pyro is from British Columbia. Eyebrawler, nice to have you here from Arkansas. Matt MDK2 from Denver, Colorado. William Helms, nice to have you on board from Florida. Shady Pyro is having 11780 Brazil with Portuguese music. Hold Radio Man, nice to have you on board from Northeast Tennessee. Briar Smoke, nice to have you here from California. Shelly says, so hot here in Pennsylvania. Looking forward to the fall. Here it's warm. It was hot. We had we had a hell of a hot summer. But it's a little, today we reached like upper 80s. Tomorrow's going to be upper 80s again. But next week and for the few weeks that follow, we're going to be in like the upper 70s almost every day, which is a welcome relief because I'm tired of the heat personally. Arthur's Alacrater's Kitchen, nice to have you on board from hot and humid Massachusetts. Ram, nice to have you on board from sunny Phoenix, Arizona. What do we have? Rob, nice to have you here, my friend. Shady Pyro 90, nice. I saw bits of Tampa Bay Lightning. Okay. Rifleman 336, nice to have you here. James Johnson, nice to have you on board. Just got electricity back after 100 miles an hour winds. Wow. Hope things are better. Was the quietest 2 days ever on Shortwave. I loved it. Yeah, you're almost, when you get something like that and you get power outage, you almost don't want the power to come back anymore. Apart from our usual life that needs electricity, the radio side of us is like, I don't want to have the power back. WF7I Homebrew, nice to have you here from Virginia. Brian Penny, nice to have you on board from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Paul the cat is in the neighbor's backyard. He's just in the grass enjoying the outdoors. Sorry, guys. So he's so funny. I don't know. Do I have the picture on this phone? I'm trying to see what phone. So my downstairs neighbors did a barbecue a couple of days ago. Oh yeah, this. So they go out and they take the cover off the barbecue, and of course, Paul the cat had to sleep on their barbecue cover. I was like, "What are you doing, Paul? What are you doing on their barbecue cover?" This is like, okay. And I was like, oh man, I hope he doesn't mind. So it was just so funny. I was like, okay, Paul, it's not everywhere and everything that you own, okay? But it was funny. And yeah, they didn't mind. They have a cat and they love Paul also. So they look at Paul and they're like, wow, he's just so cute. Nick, nice to have you here, Nicholas. K9XN from Northwest Indiana. So for those that missed it, it's getting weaker now. It's pretty much in the noise, but Radio Thailand, 15590. And in about 6 minutes, they're going to switch to West Coast. So if you want to try it out. Okay, let's continue. Mr. Lucky Train, nice to have you on board from a muggy southeastern Pennsylvania. Joe Tyson, nice to have you on board from North Carolina. PageMaster KC5VOY or WA5136SWL in Oklahoma. Finally found a Grundig Cosmopolitan shortwave radio to add to my collection. Cool. Keegan, XN80Xer, nice to have you here from Northwest Arkansas. We have PageMaster, nice to have you here. Says meow to Paul. Yep, he's really good. David, KJ4CMY, nice to have you here from Central Georgia. Charles Emerson, nice to have you on board. Looking for advice for an affordable SSB radio. Anyone know a good brand? Texan PL660 is pretty good. Nice analog and very sensitive and pretty good radio with SSB. XH Data D808 or C Crane CC Skywave. It's a little more expensive though. Those are DSP based, so they have some muting when you tune. That's the negative side of it. But I mean, a Texan PL660 is pretty good radio, and you're going to have a lot of fun. Not too expensive, very affordable. RFDX, sir, nice to have you here from Southeast Colorado. Matt, so in spite of its issues, the R30 is good for HF on a D Expedition. It is not bad, absolutely. It receives well on HF. It's sensitive enough for that. I would not replace it with a good portable if I have a choice, but it is better than the R20. That's for sure. And it receives decent signals on HF. Absolutely. Mr. Lucky Train says, missed you last week, but everyone deserves time off to themselves to enjoy life. Absolutely. Cheers. Clark Gilson, nice to have you here. KB9SJD from Wisconsin. Almay-san, nice to have you here. Pretty cool. Nick says, this weekend want to add to a park with QRP radio and make few contacts. Now that we have some decent solar conditions. Joseph Ickenbaum, nice to have you here, Joseph, from the San Francisco Bay Area. Ronald, nice to have you here. It says 40 meters SSB. David KJ4CMY, a lot of us stated in shortwave not knowing very much how much better it is today. Yep. For information, today is great. Really, really great. I can tell you that. Really, really nice. Charles Emerson, I would go to a Texan PL660 because it does perform better and is not much more expensive. Go to a Texan PL660 instead of a 600. Bobby Burgess, internet issues. Darn internet. Gary, nice to have you here in the UK. I will have a good day tomorrow. RJDA Dakota, nice to have you here. WA0113SWL, nice to have you here. David KJ4CMY likes the Radio R108 grid little receives and easy to hook an external antenna to it. Yep. You know what? Maybe I'll bring that tomorrow. XH Data and Radio together tomorrow again. I don't know. Part of me wants to bring an old one, like a Grundig G5 or something like that, or my Texan PL600. You know, I had not used the Texan PL600 in a while, and I'm enjoying using it again. It's as if the long time I had not used it, I actually missed using it because it made me realize how good the audio is and how powerful it is compared to some of the DSP receivers. Even though it has its shortcomings and SSB has a little flutter in it, it's still fun to tune. There's something about it that I kind of like. So, maybe I'll bring the Texan PL680 with me tomorrow. Well, that would be nice, a PL600 and 680 together. Anyways, I plan to go there next week again. Well, maybe not next week. I thought I would go another place because I want to show you guys around town at the same time. Next week I would probably like to go to the western part of the city, southwest part of the city, where we have some really nice parks along the St. Lawrence Sea River, um, including a place where there's some rapids. So I might want to go there next week and go to the west side, hook up there, and have a lot of fun with radio. It's also fun to visit different places and not just go to one spot all the time. Perry Island for me has a little something special, and I like to go there. And radio-wise, if I don't want to really visit anything, that's the spot that I like to go to. It's kind of a little isolated island, but also it's fun to see other parks and see other places. So next week, probably I'm gonna at least go to maybe on the southwest part of town. Tristan, nice to have you on board from Newfoundland, Canada. James Farley, nice to have you on board from New Jersey. Mr. Lucky Train, are you or anyone here familiar with the stick? Shortwave antenna sold on eBay by Stephen Goodpaster. It rings a bell, but I don't know. I have no idea. Has anybody ever tried that? Rogers Out of Crafter's Kitchen, Radio Thailand, very audible here in Massachusetts. Rufus Newt, nice to have you on board from the Laurentian Valley, Ontario. Gordon Treadwell, VE6 GPT, nice to have you on board. Nope, no VE or VA yet. I'm so busy that it's kind of a hard, I have to find the time to do it. Dr. Sisup, nice to have you on board. WWV and CHU check. Okay, let's start at the bottom with, so this is probably too early, but 2500 WWV. I'm just going to put myself on the, can anybody guess which one is the K180 and which one is the MLA? So now I'm on one antenna, and here's the other one. Well, of course, that's the K180 with all its FM overload. So nothing on 2500, of course. CHU 3330. That's pretty good. That one's good.
0 hours, 33 minutes.
And then we have 5000. It's very weak WWV, but it's still too early here. 7850 CHU. Oh, 7850 coming in. WWV, 10,000 kilohertz, pretty good. So nothing on 14670. This is 15 megahertz WWV coming in pretty nicely. Let's try 20 megahertz. Nothing on 20 megahertz. And nothing on 25. Nope. So that was a rundown of CHU and WWV. What else do we have? Gord Gilson says this is the time to listen to Radio Thailand 15590. And try, you guys, at 13 UTC tomorrow morning, try KBS from South Korea. It's been coming in quite well on 15575, 13 hours UTC. Pamela, nice to have you here. Gary Seward, nice to have you on board, Gary from the UK. Good night. Pablo Martin, nice to have you here, Pablo. Pamela, hearing random music on UBB 76. Okay. What else? What else? Power 90 was getting some UHF signals lately. Cool. PageMaster, do not forget people to check for those beacons on HF. Those are great indicators of how strong or weak propagation is. Yep. Nick, some interesting aircraft comms. I think 5550. Not sure what is exactly going on there. Short transmissions. Yeah, 5550 is one of the aeronautical communication frequencies. Usually comes in with a lot of stuff there. And as the planes slowly get back, we're getting a little more communications on the HF aeronautical frequencies. Tom DXer, nice to have you on board from the lower Hudson Valley, New York, WPE2QED. Prasad, nice to have you here from India. Payne, nice to have you here. Says, damn nice beard. I'm trying to let it grow so I don't look like a teenager. Should I remove the white or just leave it there? That's my unknown, because my hair is not white yet, and I was thinking to match the air, maybe I should color, but everybody's telling me, nah, leave it like that. It's okay. That's the way you want it. It's very scruffy though. I need to clean it up, but. Matt says, yeah, at this point, the truly long days of summer are over. We're more than halfway to the equinox now. Yep. Gordon says, my radio station knows it is now in 25 now. I haven't been able to contact anyone in Florida from northern Alberta until last week, finally. Fall on the way. Absolutely. You know, I'm one of those crazy people that actually likes winter, so I actually am happy that summer's going. I hate the big, if summer was a reasonable temperature, I'd be okay. But I hate really intense heat, and this summer was so hot that I'm kind of, happy that summer's going. RFDXer says, summer's over soon. Hope 2020 is over soon. As long as 2021 isn't bad in like 2020, I can tell you. Glenn Zeckman, nice to have you here. I answered the question twice, Charles Emerson. All right, JDA Dakota, 15590, available in Missouri from Thailand. Cool. What else do we have? But go with the 660. I'd go with the PL 660. But XH Data D808 is a very, very good radio, I can tell you. Shitty Pyro 90, 15590, not audible. Butterbean, nice to have you here from Georgia and the USA. Mr. Lucky Train, yes, this COVID is not only messing with our bodies, but with our minds and emotions. Yep, pretty much. Rob says, great advice on stories on taking breaks. It is important to take breaks from everything we do. Then it feels like new again and fun again when you take a little break. Oscar Adot, nice to have you here, Oscar. DL1SA from Germany. Rick from Milwaukee, nice to have you here. Yeah, I guess we will eventually have some normality of our lives at some point. Alme Sam has 9420, Voice of Greece. Glenn says 97 in Tennessee. That's too hot for me. Butterbean. Soldering together a bunch of crab wire to make a long wire antenna. But it's going to be around 150 feet. Ugly, but 150 feet. Well, hope you succeed. Tell us about new house. Nice to have you here from Brazil. We want Paul. We want Paul. Oh, man. All right, JD Dakota says our electric did go out for 2 hours a couple of days back. Really love the silence on the bands. It is amazing. When electricity goes out, this is where you see that, first of all, the amount of noise we have. And second, it makes us realize the amount of signals that actually are there, but are washed out because of that noise, which is really sad. It's because a couple of my friends, that I like astronomy and all, and they're like, oh, well, there's the Perseids meteor shower. And I said, yeah, you'll get 100 meteors per hour roughly visible if you're in a very dark sky. But in a city like Montreal, you'll get 3 or 4 max every hour that you'll see, because the light pollution washes out the light. Light pollution is the exact same thing as the electronic noise we have around us for radio. It's showing that, there's this blanket around and it's visible. You see that the sky isn't dark, it's grayish. Well, it's the noise on the radio bands is like that. If we could see it, we would see the same grayish background, and everything that's too weak is washed out in there. One of the fun things I've been doing is using my phone to take pictures of the sky lately. I got a tripod for my phone, and I look at some of the pictures and I'm amazed, because I'm like, okay, just to give you guys an example, in this part of the sky, I don't know if you guys could see, but the 2 little dots at the bottom of the screen are Mars and Jupiter. But I exposed this a lot, and when I actually start zooming in, I start noticing that in the zoom, there are tons of stars that I don't see with my eyes, but that the camera was able to actually capture. And that's where you see that the light pollution is amazing. It washes out everything. Well, radio is the same thing. That noise we have is the same equivalent thing as light pollution, but for radio waves. And that's where we see that when that noise goes away, it's just crazy what we can hear on the bands. I mean, when I was at the park last week, just with the telescopic, the BBC 15400 was a pretty easy target, actually. I don't hear 15400 much here, except when it's really super strong. There, I would be able to listen to it every day, because it is always strong enough to be a good enough copy to listen to the program. Because let's face it, we don't need to have a full-scale signal when we listen to a station. I don't need the BBC to be full scale. I just need the BBC to be strong enough that the program I can listen to. And most of you are probably like that. If you listen to a station, as long as it's easy to understand the language spoken, you're fine with it. And you're going to listen to a program like that. You're going to be okay. And that's what's washed out. Honestly, the noise level we have washes out that capability. If you go back 30 years, if I go back in the 80s, a lot of what I listened to was not full scale on the S meter. A lot of what I listened to was S3, S4, S5. But there was no noise. A S5 signal was super easy to understand and follow the program. And that's what is washed out right now with our noise levels. Those S3, S4, S5 signals that would be audible, that would be easy for us to listen to, are not there anymore. They are in the noise. Remove that noise and you notice, oh, look at that. There's signals there. And I mean, last week, Radio France 15300 was an easy target. BBC 15400 was an easy target. And CFRX 6070 that I do listen to here, that I do get. Here, it's good. There, it was perfect. And it wasn't full scale. It was just perfect with the zero noise that's in that area. The noise is really, really our biggest enemy because, I mean, if we could remove the noise that we have on shortwave right now, most of us would be extremely happy with our reception of signals. And one of the things that I think we put too much emphasis on, because it's the one that I see all the time, is, yeah, well, those darn, solar minimums. I can tell you the biggest problem is not solar minimum. The biggest problem is noise that's getting higher all the time. There are so many signals that we would actually listen to easily if it was just, for the fact that that the noise is there that prevents us from doing so. That is much more of a problem than solar minimum. I like to say it all the time. We put too much emphasis on solar activity because, yes, it improves the upper frequencies. Yes, more solar activity will improve some frequencies, even at nighttime sometimes. But the biggest problem is noise, more than solar activity in our hobby right now. So, and a lot of people that have been gone for a long time, I think, interpret or will say that, oh, well, we're in solar minimum, that's why the signals are like that. No, noise is why the signals are like that, because they're there and they're listenable. So, so there's communications on 5550. Rifleman 336, Mr. Paul, barbecue pitmaster. Jasper, nice to have you here from New York. Mr. Electric Train says cats are sure the best, each with its own personality. Absolutely. I don't think, Pamela, that the Lincolnshire poacher will ever come back. These are kind of gone now. Lauren Smith, nice to have you here. KF6GRE. And Brainbridge Island, Washington. Cool. Matt says, I went through some old QSL swag I got. I have an air freshener that for your car from Radio Prague that's 4 years old. It still has its scent. Wow. Okay. RJ Dakota says, Oscar, the cat is saying hello to Paul. And I'm sure Paul says hello back. Matt, does Anonco do business with Canada? Yes, he does. I've purchased so many radios from Anonco. He's one of the best, for Texan receivers, one of the best eBay sellers. And one of the best sellers of Texan products. Van Solo says, loves is Texan PL660. Thanks for the Facebook group for helping me choose. Cool. John, 102 degrees. That's way too much. CZM PL660 better than the C-Crane Skywave SSB? I will say one thing. It's that if you don't mind the chuffing or the muting when tuning, the C-Crane Skywave SSB is probably better in all of the features that it brings with it than the PL660. But the PL660 is a good old style analog PLL receiver, and so no muting when you tune around. It's sensitive and it works great. And the sound on the PL660 actually is much better than the one on the C-Crane with its very small speaker. It all depends what you are willing to give away. So Rufus is going to do some Perseeds after the show. Cool. Then Ricky, nice to have you here. Just trying to cross your channel. Very interesting. Thanks again for North Georgia KO4DJT. Welcome aboard, Len. Roger Schultz, KE4BFG. Nice to have you on board. Or J. BFJ. Nice to have you here. Nick, 4038.5. Yeah, I believe that is Mars military. Military auxiliary. Yeah, I'm hearing some stations, some activity. 4038.5 upper sideband. That's the military auxiliary radio system. So what else do we have? William Helms, the stick is a scam. Tom Stiles on his YouTube channel exposed it. Oh, you talked about it? I'm going to go and check that out. Dr. Sisop, Texan PL 990, release, get it, expensive though. It's not released. The ones that are on banggood.com are the pre-production run. It has not yet been produced and fixed of its bugs. It is not at all ready yet. The PL990, that you guys see on those websites are the pre-production runs. Don't buy it. And they are very expensive. I saw one in Canadian dollars. It would be like 700 Canadian dollars. I'm not getting that at that price. I can tell you that. Thank you, Roger Schultz. '73 Oscar in Germany. Fan Solo. It's a broomstick. Needs an antenna tuner to work well. Otherwise, it's long wire wrapped in a tube. That can be very good, honestly. Almesam 3330 CHU coming in good in Columbus, Ohio. Butterbean here, WTWW just cranked up on 5085. Twisted Radio says he hears my show on 6955 upper sideband. 6955 upper sideband, apparently. Somebody is apparently relaying my show there. Well, thank you so much. And I'm actually hearing myself. I just tuned in and I'm hearing myself. So, pretty good. So Keegan is receiving with a Ethon Grenick Edition Field BT radio, internal antenna, and is receiving 5,000 kilohertz WWV S1 of S5. Payne has Radio Romania on 7375, coming in good in Niagara, Ontario. What else do we have? I'm looking at the YouTube chat for sure. It's just that I'm very far behind CZM. What else do we have? Dr. Sisop, Grundig Ethon Satellite is the same as the Ethon Executive. Yes, it is. It's the same radio. Absolutely. Same radio. Absolutely. One Radio J. Allen website actually has opened the cover of the Ethon and the Grundig. And you see that it's the exact same radio. Even has the same circuit board and revision. So they are the exact same radio. If you get an Ethon Grundig, Ethon Executive Satellite or Grundig, Executive or whatever branded it is, it's the same exact radio. What else do we have? CZM is getting into shortwave listening, trying to decide between a PL660, PL880, or a C Crane Skywave SSB. It all depends. There are three amazing radios. Let's just put it like this. There are three amazing radios, but the C Crane will have one thing that the others don't. It's a DSP-based receiver, while the 660 and 880 are PLL analog radios, which means that the C Crane has a little more features, but has muting when you tune, which is a negative for a lot of people. VT Radio, Paul, AA1SU. Nice to have you here from Essex Junction, Vermont. Really nice to have you on board. Dr. Sisop says the new Texan PL990 available. No, it's not available. It's what's there is still the pre-production. Don't buy that now. It's not in production yet. Anonco is the guy to ask. And Anonco himself says that it's not on production. It's not on production. I can tell you that. That's for sure. What else do we have? Matt says, I'm the same way. Very little gray on top, but quite a bit in the beard. It's no big deal. Yeah, I know it's no big deal. Honestly, it's the way it is. RJ, the Dakota, if winter wasn't so cold, it wouldn't be so bad. Hate winter. What else do we have? Are there fake number stations on the air? Says Pamela. I suppose that there could be pirates that do number stations, Tom DXer, Wolfgang, nice to have you here. Wolfgang DL1KWS in Germany. Tom DXer, did you manage to see Common Neowise? Yeah, I caught it on my phone. I caught it on my phone while taking a 20-second exposure picture. So I saw it really well on the phone's picture. Unfortunately, it was a little weak for naked eye in Montreal itself. What else do we have? Tom DXer on the 22nd, Saturn and Jupiter were 7 degrees apart, looking southeast in Sagittarius. Saw the moons Callisto and Ganymede. Cool. What else do we have? RFDXer says, saw a UFO last Monday. Turned out to be a Google Loon balloon. Oh, interesting. Alembic 65, nice to have you here. So true. Keep trying to give summer a chance. Embrace the 4 seasons. But each year, the humidity is more sickening. Give me a peaceful snowfall. Yeah. It's one of the things that that I was when I was doing the live show with Sheldon, the show for the International Radio Report. I said, I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but I can't stand the heat like I did when I was young. I hate the heat of the summer now. It's unless I'm at the beach. At the beach, it's perfect, and the swimming pool is perfect, but not in every day. Uh, K6YYL, nice to have you on board. Kimberly from California, and I am live on a pirate station on 6955 upper sideband, so I can actually hear myself with kind of a delay where I was when it's playing. It's funny. Kevin Wood, nice to have you here from Nova Scotia. So what else do we have? RJ Dakota, CFRX always seem to come in for me most of the day, but later in the evening it goes away. Yeah, well, you know what happens is I have the same phenomena here. So in the daytime, CFRX is a pretty much an all-day station. When I get up in the morning, I just tune in and it's there, and it'll be there all day until late afternoon. But in the evening, unless propagation is kind of weird, it usually is gone. And probably because of the changing propagation, it skips over my location at a certain time during the night. Keegan says, my dad is Ham W9JEF since August 3rd, 1954. Pretty cool. Page Master says, don't forget the August issue of the Spectrum Monitor. You know what? I didn't look much at it. I need to take another peek. And of course, for those that are members of the Canadian International DX Club, CIDX, we have the August edition of the CIDX Messenger. And that's also nice. Dan, nice to have you here, Dan, in Ohio, N8WJZ. VT Radio got a beautiful QSL card for working Cocos Islands on CW, SSB, and FT8 in February. Oh, that is cool. That is cool. And these are QSLs from, more exotic locations. Snaggy Gold 57. Nice to have you here. Where are you located? Trevor, nice to have you here. No, this is not a dark one. This is more of a Belgian. It's kind of maybe it looks. I see that it looks darker on the screen than it is actually, because of the lighting probably. This is a triple style Belgian ale. That was some of the new house. Now I'm repairing an old cheap radio for my dad. It looks like the elderly radio one. The elderly radio. I was listening to it this week. I did a band scan this week of the AM, FM bands, something that I don't do very often. And I've been enjoying it, actually, because there's, a few... When you don't listen to the local stations on your AM, FM band, doing so from time to time is like a new experience. It's like something's new all the time. And also, I wanted to check out because 1040, for those that are DXing medium wave, 1040 kilohertz CJMS out of Saint Constant, Quebec, on the south shore of Montreal, is going to leave the airwaves on August 31st. The CRTC is not renewing their license because they failed to follow the rules. So August 31st, 1040 kilohertz AM station in Montreal is going to leave the airwaves. But the funniest part of that is I listened to that station for a couple of hours the other day. So right now they're kind of having only music pretty much. And what I found kind of funny is that they're still playing ads that if you want to advertise on their station to call their number. And I was thinking, what, are you trying to screw people up? Are you trying to screw people up? This is like crazy. I'm hearing two things on 6955. Somebody kind of screaming or something, and my voice. It sounds really weird right now, as if somebody's trying to interfere. Jude from Oklahoma just found a used BL 880 and an AOR 8200. Need a few parts for both, but we will see. Well, I hope there are not too many parts. They're nice radios. Snaggy Gold 57. To get your ham license, contact your closest amateur radio club around where you live, and they'll have all the information depending on where you live on how to get follow the ham radio course and check that out. Richard 2E0FJJ, nice to have you on board. Listening to military communications on 11175, which is the U.S. Global Command. With pretty much all the time, it's EAMs or emergency action messages. Trustin says, I keep an eye on a few radio models. Man, the prices go up and down like a barrel of oil. Crazy over a couple of days. You know, when I got the XH Data D808, I snagged it at a time when the price was just perfect, because over time, that radio I've seen it a couple of days ago on one eBay seller for like $250. I mean, it's a nice radio, but an XH Data D808 is not worth $250 at all. It would be crazy to buy it at that price, you know? Ecadarius, nice to have you on board. Nice to have you on board. What else do we have? Robert Prosper, Radio Netherlands. Radio Netherlands is off the air, Robert. And Radio Moscow is also off the air, Robert. So you could not have been listening to them. Charles Emerson, does the XH Data 808 have muting when you tune? Yep. It's kind of easy. You know what? Every radio that is based on a DSP chip, they all mute. All of them. There's no portable DSP receiver that is not muting. And it's sad because I'm sure somebody could do a fix for that to make sure that when you tune around. The only thing, though, and I noticed it a lot with the C crane. So last week when I was at the park with the C crane, Skywave SSB, on AM, it's crazy. The muting is really, really tough to really tune around. But on single sideband, the muting is so short, you can actually live with it, probably. Abdelghani Suli, nice to have you on board. What's the difference between the Yardboard 400 and the Grundig G4000A? Are they the same? I believe they are the same radio, but branded differently depending on the market where they were sold. But I think they are the exact same radio. Absolutely. Robert Prosper loves his Zenith Transoceanic. Zach, nice to have you on board, Zach Oriental. Been pretty good here. Nice to have you on board. Steve Miller, nice to have you here, Steve. John McClure, nice to have you on board. Matt says, I'm strange. I love blizzards, but I'm not dealing with the snow once the storm is over. So you'd like to have a blizzard that is like there for a day and the snow is gone the next day, like magically. So the pirate that is actually rebroadcasting me is on 6955 upper sideband right now. Nick says Banggood is selling the PL 880 at $279. You can get that on Amazon for $159. Yeah, you got to be careful. You got to be careful where you buy the radio because you got to check it out. I can tell you that. Patrick Manny, nice to have you here. Says meow to DX the cat. Nice to have you on board, Patrick. Matt says, I'm getting a bit of delay on YouTube and I'm hearing you on 6955 half a second or so ahead of YouTube. Well, the delay is not very big because when the signal goes a little higher, I notice that it's not. I don't know what's the delay, but the delay is very, very small, very, very small from what I'm saying and what is there. Kind of interesting. Joseph, no 6955 in California. Daniel Diaz, if you want to run a pure computer-based SDR, which would be the best transceiver? I don't, most, because we got to say that most transceivers, high-end transceivers today, are pretty much all SDRs encased in a radio, box with knobs. And so I can tell you that the ICOM IC 7300, I think, is a big winner for price versus performance. Jeff King, nice to have you on board from Jacksonville, Florida. Patrick Manny says, resetting my PL 660 and checking the settings, I've made my regular alkaline batteries last much longer. Oh, interesting. So maybe it could be a bug. It could be, I often say it. One of the things you got to remember is these radios today, portable receivers, are kind of small mini computers. They have chips that control everything, and they have microprocessors. So it's like a small computer in a radio box. It happens regularly that these radios, they go berserk for some reason. It could be static discharge, and it could be, it's a computer. So like every computer, you leave it running for hours or for days or weeks, and some glitch can happen. And anything can go weird from there. Anything can just be strange suddenly. And you see, like, it's surprising, but I'm not. At the same time, I'm not totally surprised that maybe a glitch in the processor made the battery drain because something kept running all the time. It's the same when a lot of people tell me, or a lot of people come to the channel, or a lot of people go to the Facebook group and they start saying, well, my Texan PL whatever, or my XH data whatever, or my RadiWow or my C Crane is dead or acting weird, or doesn't turn on or doesn't have sound. The first thing you should do is a reset and see what it does. For a lot of problems, that reset works and we'll fix it and everything will be back to normal. But also at the same time, that reset might not do anything. And then what is your best bet is remove the batteries and leave the radio without power for at least 24 hours. And the longer it will be without power, the better. So if you have something to do and you leave it without batteries and power for a week, no problem. Just leave it like that. Pick it up, put the batteries back in, and check it out when it actually restarts. 95% of the time when it's acting bizarre and nothing works, taking the battery out for a couple of days is magical. And I suspect that it has to do also with when you reset a radio, you will reset the processor, you will reset some of the circuits, but you're not resetting necessarily everything. And some capacitors will still have power in them. So, when you remove batteries, somebody told me once, well, if I remove them 5 minutes, it's going to be okay. No, because some of the capacitors hold a charge. And even if the display's blank, it doesn't mean there's zero electricity inside the radio. Some of the capacitors might take several hours to actually drain to zero. So by leaving the radio without batteries, you let the time for all of these capacitors to really drain and get to zero, which means every part of the radio is actually reset because there's no more power anywhere. And 95% of the time, that fixes the radio. So I think that's one of the biggest things to try. If reset doesn't work, leave the radio without power and batteries for a couple of days at least. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. Daniel Diaz, SDR Play is just a receiver. Yes, SDR Play devices are just receivers, but there are a couple of transceivers that are SDR out there. JF Nixon, is there a website you recommend for new used shortwave radios? I buy almost everything. For portables, I buy almost everything off of eBay for the most part. Keegan says, might be easier to hear WHO in Iowa on 1040. Well, I'm going to try it. When they are going to leave the airwaves on 1040, I am going to try to get something else. Matt says, I think that screaming or whatever on 6955 is coming from the same broadcaster. I think that Pirate's adding content to the show. It is possible. I wasn't sure actually. So, but when I listened to, I actually thought about that also, Matt. Well, Boston WBZ is easy for me here. WBZ is the really a top-notch, really strong station in Montreal. Dr. Sisop, when will they remove Father Stare off for too much religious? Oh, well, I don't know. Someday. As long as he pays, these stations are keeping the programs. Hey, Andre, cool AM radio. Nice to have you on board. Jay Watterson 69, nice to have you here. Says shout out to Paul the Cat and Jill. Nice to have you on board. Shitty Pyro 90s getting the Pirate on 6955 upper sideband. It is possible that it's Sicko doing the relay. Wasn't he doing the relay on like the 31 meter band the other time? So thank you, Sicko Radio. Whoever you are, rebroadcasting my voice on 6955 kilohertz shortwave. Ed, he is hearing me in Illinois on 6955. RFDXer says, if it's going to snow, it might as well be deep. None of those annoying dustings. Dr. Sissa picking up WYKO 880 kilohertz in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Cool. That must be fun, though. And when you're on the coast there, on the south coast, you probably get tons of medium waves from different islands around the Caribbean. If there's no stations to interfere with them, of course. Shelly, I wonder if the pirate who is relaying your show is in the very chat room. Interesting indeed. It could be. It might be reading every little thing that's happening in this chat room for sure. Jeffrey Chen, nice to have you on board. Robert Prosper, do they still make so-called internet radios? Yeah, they do. I was at a store last week looking at some of the stuff they have there. They have a lot of Bluetooth AM FM radios and stuff, and there was a couple of Sangean branded Wi-Fi internet radios. There was a couple of ones. One was like $180. It was expensive. I do have a Sangean WFR20 here that I don't use, and I should really use a lot more than what it is used right now. Echidarius cannot pick up 6955. One thing for sure, smart speakers do it all because you can ask for pretty much any stream and anything. But there are some Wi-Fi dedicated radios. Sangean still makes quite a few models. Shitty Pyro 90 is getting 6955 on the Milford receiver. What else do we have? Pretty cool over here. Cool AM radio. Actually, except for the weather, that's really hot. But well, yeah, pretty nice. Pretty nice. What else do we have? Matt says, you know you're a radio geek when you're listening to a pirate station relay the radio-themed YouTube live show that you're also watching. Yes, probably. Well, if it's good enough, what's nice with the relay of the pirate is that not only is there a live YouTube shortwave show, but listening to it through radio waves at the same time on shortwave is adding kind of a little something more to the show. I honestly am kind of, I feel kind of flattered to be on a pirate. When a pirate actually starts broadcasting your live shows, somewhere you're like, well, I'm a star enough of a guy to have pirates rebroadcast me now. It is kind of cool. Jose Humberto Almonte, nice to have you on board. My top 10 shortwave favorite portable radios. Okay. So my some portable radios that I have. They're dependent on different things, and they're not always very portable. So there's the Grundig G5. Grundig G5 is holding a very special place in my heart. Grundig G5 is still one of my top favorite shortwave analog portables out there, PLL driven. FM is amazing when you want a DX. I know that actually a lot of DXers, FM DXers, use the Grundig G5 because it has such a amazing FM receiver. So Grundig G5, really amazing. XH Data D808 is something that I love. I love this radio. It's if you remove the muting, the chuffing on AM, mostly on AM mode, when tuning around, I love that radio. It's really, really nice. It's actually here. It's never very far from my heart. So I love this radio. It's a beautiful receiver. It is really nice, all the features that they have. It's a little expensive, but I learned to love the C Crane CC Skywave SSB. Nice radio with airband, with weather band. It is nice. It comes with some accessories that are nice. I really, really like the radio. I think it's, but it feels the same. When I look at the radios, the Eton or the Grundig edition, the Grundig Executive that I tested, XH Data, the C Crane, they're obviously all designed on the same style of electronic circuits because they work in the same way, they react in the same way. Everything you do is exactly like that, like they're identical. It's just the buttons and the interface when you look at the screen that it looks different a little bit, but the radios are the same. You would, I could tell you if you would, except for maybe the quality of the speaker, I would be blindfolded and you would tune around an XH Data, C Crane, CC Skywave, a Grundig Executive Satellite. I would not know which one you're actually tuning. because they react in the same way and they are exactly identical and the way that everything is and in their features. So for me, it's like, well, these radios are pretty much the same thing. They are all the same, pretty much the same sensitivity. I would add maybe just a little plus to the XH data on medium wave. AM radio on the XH data as actually a little something more. And it is because the XH data D808 has a longer ferrite within the radio. It kind of boosts the medium wave signal a little bit. But for the rest, when things like, go up and down, when you have the shortwave propagation and the signal fades out, they all have the same awkward fade out of a signal because the DSP chip, the way the AGC, the automatic gain control works, feels the same, and it just isn't smooth. It drops off at a certain point. It isn't like an analog radio. An analog radio, it's smooth from the bottom when it's weak all the way up to when signals are stronger. It's kind of linear. It's really goes from one to the next in its in the way of doing it. But the DSP chips and the DSP receivers doesn't work like that. The AGC drops at a certain point. I haven't noticed if it drops exactly at the same point everywhere, though. It might depend on the circuit used around it. But it is weird because it is annoying. I was listening to some medium wave stations one night with the Texan PL680 and the I think it was the Grundig Executive Satellite. And I was annoyed at the fact that the Grundig Executive Satellite, when I was listening, for example, to WCBS 880 kilohertz, when the signal was dropping below a certain level, it just drops off. But when you listen to the analog Texan PL680, there it didn't drop off. The signal was weak, but still audible. So that is technically a flaw, because if you are a DXer, it might be an annoying thing to for you to actually listen to some of the signals. And it's not just medium wave. It does that even on shortwave. The drop off, there's kind of a cutoff point where the drop off goes, like the signal is there and it's gone, rather than having that kind of tamper zone where it actually goes even weaker and you still can hear what's happening. So it's kind of weird. Other radios that I like, I gotta say I have it's a portable, so I got a nice place in my heart for a 1969 Grundig Satellite Transistor 6001, which is also known as the Grundig Satellite 210, depending on the market. It's a beautiful radio, beautifully designed, amazing design. I mean, that thing is so complex in its mechanical buttons and ways and gears. It's crazy, but man, it is a beautiful radio. It sounds great. It's nice to operate. It's fun to tune around with. I need to take it out and make more videos in the next couple of days with this, because I've been meaning to use it a little more. What else? What other radios? So the Texan PL680 has a special place in my heart. The 600 Texan PL600 also, because it's pretty much the first PLL synthesized Texan receiver I've ever purchased. So I guess it has a special place in my heart for that reason. There's a few things like that. Any other radios that I can... The Degen D1103 that I like. It's very unique in its design. I'm trying to think what engineer sat down at the table one day and says, hey, you know what? We should do a radio that has an LCD line that imitates an analog needle tuning across the bands. Because That is what it is. In the display of the Degen DE1103, the line is an LCD line. It's not a needle. And it moves up and down the scale of shortwave frequencies like if it would be an analog radio. And it's kind of cute. I mean, there's something about it that's like, okay, well, somebody thought maybe if we take a PLL driven radio with frequency display and imitate a analog dial on it, maybe somebody will like it or want it. I don't know. It's kind of funny when you think about it. But I like it. The radio's good. It receives well. It's a nice radio. Does a nice job at it. Degen D1103. Really nice radio. One that I was looking at the other day that that one is, in this, when you buy a $20 radio and it's crap, you tell yourself, well, it's $20. And so being crappy is something that I thought was possible on a $20 radio. But I remember when I purchased the Degen DE1106, that was the first radio. Was it? I think it was the first. I'm not sure now because I don't know which one I had first. But it was one of the first radios that had the airband. I think it is the first radio I purchased with the airband. Then I got the Texan PL680 later that does have also the airband on it. The Degen DE1106 had airband, had synchronous detection, and boy was that was the radio that I probably was I was really a lot of deception around that radio because I thought the price that they sell it for, it was, more expensive. I paid something like 125 Canadian dollars for it, which back then was a lot of money because when I purchased it, the Canadian dollar and the US dollar were at par, which meant, if it was 100 US dollars, it was 100 Canadian dollars also. And I bought a lot of radios back then because there was a lot of stuff that I, when the dollar was at par, I was like, oh man, it's the time to buy stuff, And it was like $120, and which means it was 120 US dollars. And I was waiting for that radio because, I was still high on the Degen D1103. That was such a good radio. And I thought, well, this could be a really good radio. And there's some slow scan TV on 6955 right now. I hope it's not in my face. So basically, it made me a little sad because performance wasn't good. It was off frequency. The sync detection was crappy as hell. And boy was I deceived. Boy was I unhappy with that Degen D1106. Because I had paid a higher price thinking that it should technically be at least a minimum of quality, and it was not. And it was not. Radivar R108 is in the radio I love. It's a nice little portable. It's great. The Texan PL380 I love. Great radio with ETM, easy tuning mode. The first time that I was in contact with easy tuning mode. Every time they put a new, some kind of new feature on a radio, most of the time I'm always like, yeah, that's kind of a gimmick, trying to sell radios with new stuff. And for me, when I saw ETM, easy tuning mode, I was like, yeah, another gimmick. I got to say, I'm a big fan, and I use ETM all the time. And easy tuning mode is very useful. It's fun to leave the radio on. The best one that I have with that is the CountyCom GP5 SSB, which is also the equivalent of the Texan PL365. And the easy tuning mode on that radio is amazing. I mean, you scan the bands and it's really, really cool. So more slow scan TV going on right now. What else do we have? What else do we have? Let's just go down here. Let's just go down here. Trying to catch up a little bit. And the chat room. SoCalf1 just bought an RSP1A yesterday. Was weird waiting outside HRO as they delivered it to my car. It is weird. You know, imagine you can't really touch radios to test them out today. That's kind of weird too. Lee Ray Phillips. Really Phipps. Nice to have you on board, Lee Ray Phipps. K9WXN. Pretty cool. Nicodarius, Paul the Cat digs pirate broadcasters. JD Dakota, when I listen to RNZI, I sometimes will switch to my CC Wi-Fi. No 6955 in Jacksonville, Florida. Old Radio Man. Oh my God, I know who the pirate is. It's Paul the DX Pirate Cat. That's why he's not in the room. Shh. We got to keep it quiet. Paul the Cat is broadcasting. SoCalf1 says, listen to Aircraft Over the Pacific yesterday on 8843. Cool. Nicodarius, Whiskers, my female comment pleco, don't care for pirate broadcasters. Hey, Mark, nice to have you on board from Houston, Texas. Steve Miller, Paul likes WTWW. Ham Radio Crash Course, nice to have you on board. Says, I too like the Sea Crane Skywave SSB. Sean, nice to have you on board. How's the Sanjian ATS 909X and Ethan Grenig Executive? So on the ATS 909X, if you put it on an outdoor antenna, is actually a really nice radio. I like the looks. I like the design. But I still will say that even on a long wire antenna, it's still kind of deaf compared to a lot of radios. But it is a nice radio, and you will receive on a long wire pretty much anything. It's SSB superb, tuning around. And it's a nice radio. I love it. And I got to say that ATS 909X has one thing that is in its favor. I have to give it #1 price for the most beautiful looking shortwave radio, shortwave portable radio of modern times, because it is darn beautiful. Ethan Grundig Executive is beautiful. It works great. I don't have a lot of negative about it, except if you don't like chuffing or muting because it's DSP based. I like the orange display. I've been a fan of their orange displays a lot. I kind of like them. It just has one. It seems to overload easily. That would be probably the negative side of it. It overloads easily. VT radio not picking up 6955 upper sideband. So he's listening to CKDO in Toronto, 1580 kilohertz. WF7 Ion Bro. The XH data is used a lot here for medium wave, shortwave, and local FM. It is beautiful. I love the radio. Keegan, first radio I received FMDX is on the Grundig's S450 DLX field radio in 2012. First FMDX in 2013. Cool. That is nice. Sean, I think the Texan PL880 is nice. It is nice. It's a very, very nice receiver. That's for sure. That's for sure. Coolium radio, yeah, it's still not in production though. The Texan PL990. Actually, three Texan receivers are in the possible making for 2021. Texan PL990, Texan H501, and Texan PL330. All three receivers. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But Anonco has no news of them. So if he doesn't have any news of them, it's not time yet. And the ones that are online are pre-production. They're the first run that he actually built. And they have flaws. I know that the PL990 is being reprogrammed. I saw on shortwavelistening.com that Texan was actually reprogramming the firmware because there are some bugs they wanted to kind of dish out of the radio. So there's some bugs in it on the firmware side of things. Jim, nice to have you here from Rhode Island. Passed his amateur radio general license this past weekend. Congratulations, Jim. That's beautiful. Woohoo! What else do we have? Dr. Sisop, downfall to the Grundig, Ethan Satellite and Executive. His parts of the display will light partly if they're not supposed to be after a year or so. Oh, interesting. I saw somebody mention that, so I don't know. We'll see. Mine is fine for now. Always great. We'll see over time what happens. TK Williams, WDOJ is the only part that I have logged recently on 6955 upper sideband. I heard WDOJ and a few weeks ago. What else do we have? William Moser, nice to have you here. Rufus Newt, getting accustomed to the muting irritates me, so I stay analog most of the time. But I have to say, if you are a big fan of tuning around single sideband, the muting is it's there, but it's almost inexistent. On single sideband, I think pretty much everybody could probably deal with it fine. It's really when you're in AM mode that it's terrible. Artist Out of Crafter's Kitchen, nice to have you here. You're in love with your Grundig satellite. I'm in love with my Panasonic RF2200. Analog radios have an amazing charm. And, there's something about also old technology. I don't know if it's just me, but having a radio or any electronic device in front of me that I look at and I'm like, you know what? This thing was built 40 years ago. And an example of that is the old computers I've got. I got a Commodore 128 there. I've got an Atari 1040 ST here, an Amiga 500 there. I think, okay, that was made 35 years ago. Still turns on. Still boots up whatever game or operating system I give it. There's something about also the fact of the old age of the device still working, which is amazing. XNADXer says, I'm used to the muting. Well, I guess you can get used to it, probably. George, nice to have you on board from Puerto Rico. Lauren Smith says the newer versions of SDR radio have a great analog meter. Matt hearing SSTV faintly. So I don't know what picture they were sending out on SSTV. I just hope it's not my face. But somebody has on, I don't know who. I don't remember who out of you guys have posted the picture, but somebody had posted the picture of my face as I sent an SSTV picture of my face on 14230 20 meters amateur band at some point. What else do we have? TK Williams, Pirate just ID'd on SSTV. It's a cat with a spider patch. Pirate cat. Cool. Some squealing noise on 3300 on the lower sideband. Hey, Ed. Nice to have you on board. Shitty Pyro 90. Paul taking over the 6955. Some meowing. RJ Dakota 6955 no longer heard. Lawrence Smith looks like Paul got his ham license. William Moser, I still think for $20 the Texan DR920 is a great radio for the money. The DR920 and R9012, the R9012 are both below $20 radios that are very surprising. When I purchase a radio that's below $20, I never expect much. When I got the Texan R9012, I still remember thinking that thing must be so crappy for $20. It was not even $20. I think it was like $16 shipping included. And you start thinking, wow, they can make a radio, a box to put it in, ship it to me, and it doesn't even cost $20. It can't be a good radio. And I remember when I got the R9012, it's not a DX machine, but I was so surprised that it could actually get a lot of radio stations decently on HF. I was amazed that a radio that's less than $20 can actually work that well. The DR920, I think, and that's my feel, is the same as the R9012. It's just that they added a frequency counter so that their frequency can be displayed. But I would not be surprised that internally it could be pretty much the same as the R9012. Take care, Mark Ledford, 73. RJDA Dakota can still now hear you on 6955. Nice and clear. Cool. Molvania Poacher, I am drinking a gift from God, a don de Dieu. It's from the same brewery that makes the Fin du Monde. Dr. Sis, I'm leading my Texan PL660 and Greenwich Ethan satellite and executive seem deaf on longwave. I noticed that the Ethan's Ethan or the Greenwich executive satellite was not very good on longwave. But it's very hard for me to test that because here longwave is a couple of non-directional beacons from the local airports, and so it's almost impossible to test out, really. Al, nice to have you on board from Seacliff, New York. Kadarius, if Paul the Cat was a pirate broadcaster, it would be playing All My Rowdy Friends Are Coming Over Tonight. Oh, man. RJDA Dakota says, I hear you and what sounds like a scream or something like a cat. Yeah, it could be a cat. Cool AM, Texan PL990 is one of the 3 new radios offered by Texan, and according to the news from the company, these may be the last developed. Yeah, they say last I-end. Whatever that means. They're kind of not saying the last radios, but the last I-end. They're really expensive. So I saw prices on, I don't know if it's going to go down or what, but I saw prices in Canadian dollars. PL990 and H501 are above 600 Canadian dollars. PL330 is around 300 Canadian dollars. So I don't, unless they offer one to me for free or for a very cheap price, I'm not gonna shed $600 for a Texan receiver. That's too expensive. I know that a lot of people would get a kick out of, maybe I could do a funding drive and see if people want me to really have one. Do some kind of funding drive, and I'll purchase either the PL990 and H501. I mean, I can pay, part of it, that's for sure. But I don't want to. I'm not going to shed $600 or $700 on one of those out of my pocket. That would. It's too expensive. There's other things out there that I would actually purchase rather than that. Maybe if they do have an official, run, I'll maybe I could do some kind of a PayPal thing, or if you want me to get one of those, let's if you want to help me and chip in so that I could review it and test it out. But it's too expensive for that. Too expensive. Garden Lyle, nice to have you on board from Johnston City, Southern Illinois. Jeff King says, I do a lot of tuning around, but used to tuning slowly anyway. So muting is less bothersome. Yeah, if you do it slow, it works. It's just that anybody that tunes a little too fast, that's the problem. It's that there's that delay. It's that delay that it's kind of, annoying. Man. Paul's call sign VY2 cat. RGA Dakota says 6955 seems to have moved to music at 0145. That's fine. Thanks for broadcasting my live feed for a while. It was really nice. Butterbean says, storming like crazy here. Had to unplug and go to grounds. Lots of lightning in this storm. Yeah, better be careful. Better safe than sorry, as they say. Dr. Sisop says, at 600, I would buy a used ham radio. At 600, I would think of something else. I don't know. I would be happier with a used tabletop at 600 than a Texan PL990. Anyways, we'll see if they do get into the production. Maybe because right now it's kind of a rare, it's kind of one of those things that's there's not a lot of them. And the first pre-production, and they're trying, like the Bang Good websites are trying to kind of maybe cash in on the you can get it first now, and this is the price. And maybe once they do get in production, they're going to be lower in price. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. They look nice. But there's I have, over time you kind of reassess what price you want to pay for a radio. Back in the 80s, it's crazy to say, but back in the 80s, there's not even something close to this. And if you would have had something like this back in 1985, for example, this would have cost you easily $400 or $500 to have the same capabilities. It would have been, and even at $500, it would not even get close to this in its features, because everything is analog. So there's no chip that does everything. It's like you got to put the parts on the circuit board, and this thing would have been much bigger, of course, because of the times. And as we moved on, and that is what made me purchase my first Texan receiver. Until the year 2000-ish, a good shortwave PLL digital display radio, there was pretty much nothing below about $200. And so, I remember I got the Grundig Yacht Boy 400. I think I paid $199 at a Radio Shack, and that was a sale. It was on sale at $199. No, not Radio Shack. At an electronics store downtown Montreal. It was $199. And at $199, it was one of the lowest priced portable shortwave you could get. And here we're talking, what, $19.95 maybe. And I remember when I purchased it, brought it home, and was really happy with it. It was a nice radio. But that was kind of the bottom price. There was nothing really good below that price. I had a couple of shortwave radios that I purchased for like 140, 160. They were kind of crappy in their way of receiving and FM overload and all. So there was like a bottom price point of 200, 250 bucks pretty much at the time. Then we get into the year 2000s, and I start looking at what's available. We were talking earlier in the show if we often go off and on in the live shows, and not the live shows, the radio hobby. In any hobby, we take breaks, and it feels good to take a break from time to time. And one of the patterns I would say that I would go through is when I was really listening a lot to radio. I had a radio, whatever I was using. And then I would take a break, and I could be several months without listening to shortwave. And if I listened to shortwave a little bit, I would use my Kenwood R5000 throughout the 90s. But one of the things that was always there is every time I was going to get back into the hobby, I always felt I wanted a new radio. I was getting back into the hobby. I wanted something new. I want to have something that is nice and performs and whatever. And of course, back then there was still Radio Shack that had a few models. And back then, it was still time where a couple of electronics shops downtown Montreal still were carrying at least one model of shortwave radio. So I had several portables over the 90s, including the Yacht Boy, the Grundig Yacht Boy 400, which was a decent receiver, and I wish I had it now. So I had a few radios like that. When I moved here in 2000, shortwave was far from a priority. First of all, for the first time, I understood what noise was, because before moving here, I had no idea what noise was, because I had lived in places where the noise floor was really low, and I could listen to so many signals. I arrive here and I notice that there's so much noise that there's a lot of stuff I don't listen to. And that noise is not as high as it is right now in 2020. Because in 2000, 20 years ago, it's still lower. But it put a damper on my hobby. It kind of made me sad, and I would say to a certain extent, almost made me leave the hobby completely. Because now I was at a point where I wasn't happy anymore listening, because I had lost a lot of the signals and the stuff that I was used to getting easily, and that was normal for me. And I got here and all of that is lost. And I mean, in 2000, there's still a lot of stations on the air, Radio Austria in English, Radio Sweden still there. Radio Norway, I think, is still there. All of that. So, I mean, there's a lot more signals in today that are still broadcasting to North America. But it's harder, and the weak stuff that I was used to listen to isn't. I can't. And it kind of put a bummer on me, and I was like, man, okay. And I stopped listening to the radio. I would say for the first 5 years of living here, I rarely turned on my receiver because there was nothing really interesting, and signals were hard to get because of the noise level and all of that. And then I got back into it because at some point, when a hobby is like really important, when a hobby is something you really love, there's a certain point where you turn on the radio and you wanna try something and want to listen to something. And I remember I found a direction where I could put like a 75, 80 feet wire outdoor that was noisy, but a little less noisy than what I had. And I got back into the hobby, and I got back into listening to shortwave. And when I really got back, one of the first things was that urge that you have when you get back that I had in the 80s and the 90s. Okay, now I'm back. I want to have a new radio. And we're in 2006, 7, 8, I don't know, somewhere like that. And the first thing that comes to mind is, for me, I had not purchased a radio. And when I purchased my Texan receiver, I probably had not purchased a radio in at least 10 years. At least 10 years. And I was starting out on eBay looking at stuff and buying stuff and looking at all the crap and whatever is online. And I see the Texan PL 600. Looks nice. PLL, digital display. But in my head, I haven't purchased a radio in 10 years. A good radio, must be at least $200, $250. I'm still in that price range. And the Texan PL 600, when I purchased it, was around $90. And I thought, $90. Can that $90 radio be really good? And half of me wanted to buy it simply because it was cheap. And I was very curious as to how good it could be at that price. And of course, part of me wanted to buy it because it looked nice. It seemed nice. And I wanted to have a radio. And in 2004, 5, 6, around there, Radio Shack isn't the place anymore. It's probably already changed to the Source. There's no more shortwave radios. The electronic shops that still exist in Montreal don't sell shortwave radios anymore. The only outlet that I have for buying a shortwave radio at that time is now the internet. And I want a radio. It's $90. I can afford it. And I'm curious as to how it performs. And I want it. And I just, I buy it. And it took, 2-3 weeks, and it arrived here. And I take it out of the box and look at it. And it's nice and everything. And I start tuning around. And first thing is, I'm amazed at how a $90 receiver is working. Because I'm surprised at its performance for the price. And that's where you see that as time goes by, technology changes. A lot of the technology we use is so cheap. When I was watching Back to the Future the other day, and when he goes back to 1955 and they sit down in the kitchen, they're eating, and they have a black and white TV, and the kid asks Marty McFly, do you have a TV? And he says, oh, yeah, we have 3 of them. And the kid says, oh, wow, you must be rich. And the mom says, he's joking. Nobody has 3 TVs or 2 TVs or whatever. And it shows you the difference in pricing versus technology today. And we get radios today of an amazing price point with truly amazing performance. I mean, I grew up with a DX100, which I today see that is a pretty crappy radio. Man, if I had this in 1982, I would have so much enjoyed the hobby, so much more. But then again, I enjoyed the hobby a lot, and I didn't know better, and I didn't know anything about shortwave and radios in general, anyways. But it's kind of interesting, and the price point means that today, I look at those Texan receivers. I mean, a Texan PL 990 or an H501 at 600 to 700 Canadian dollars. I'm not prepared to pay a price like that for a portable radio. A tabletop is a different thing. A portable radio? You know what? They should have done, if they really wanted to go like really expensive, they should have done, don't do 3 new radios. Forget about that. Do a Texan tabletop. I would be interested in that. If you sell me a Texan tabletop at $800-900, you know what? I'm starting to think, well, you know what? Maybe I want to have a Texan tabletop. I would be curious about that, at least for that price point. Joe Sumda Newhouse says RAE Argentina 5800 via WRMI. What else do we have? Just go down. I lost my space. Okay, here I am. Roughest Newt. I've never spent more than 130 Canadian dollars for any radio I own. And that being the XH data. That is I think it's 2 different markets. Gordon Lyle has a very interesting thought here, saying, I wonder if Texan is having a tough time competing with SDRs like SDR play receivers. Makes me wonder. I would say yes and no. I would say no for the general market, because a portable radio is a portable radio, and for somebody that just wants a radio, they're in the perfect market for that. Where an SDR play, for example, might compete is for geeks like us. Geeks like us are the ones that know about SDRs and will invest in an SDR. Let's face it. An RSP1A is something like $119 which is roughly the price of a Texan PL 660. But you get a lot more bang for the buck. You get a wideband receiver. You get so many features. But you need a computer. And let's never forget that part. A SDR play on any SDR device, even the cheap RTL SDR V3 and so on, they're not very expensive for what they do, but you need a computer. So it becomes a several $100 radio. That Toshiba that's running it right now, I paid $800 for it when I purchased it. I'm running SDR Play RSPDX. Okay, it was given to me, but say that I would have purchased it, which is $200. I got a $1,000 receiver here because I did pay $800 for the computer, $200 for the radio. It's a $1,000 receiver. We got to put the price point in reality of things. You don't need a computer to run a Texan. I don't think an SDR hurts the portable market because I think it's all different things. I think Texan's market is hit more by the fact that shortwave is maybe less of a thing. You know, Texan came out of the fact that the Asian market still loves shortwave and uses shortwave. There's a lot of stuff there. Just use an online Kiwi SDR in Asia and look at all the stations there. It's crazy. And shortwave is a big thing. It's still a big thing in Asia. They're riding on that market. I mean, Texan sells receivers here. We have some receivers here of Texan. A lot of them sold because, like I said, you got to buy that one. But in the overall looks of the market, Texan is selling radios, but I don't think the North American market or European market is that big. It exists. It's there. It's there enough for them to want to sell us radios, but I don't think that's necessarily a very big market. We don't have numbers of these companies. You know, we don't have numbers of how many radios Texan sells. And how many. It'd be interesting to see a chart of, Texan. How many radios do you sell every year? How many of them are sold in Europe, North America, and Asia? And which models are the more popular ones? One thing for sure is the Asian market buys cheap stuff. And the Texan PL990, for example, is not made for the Chinese market. Nobody buys that at that price point in China. They all buy the cheap stuff. But I don't know. It's kind of interesting to see that. Mika Dalmage, nice to have you on board. Oh, it's true. This weekend it's the CIDX meeting, Zoom virtual barbecue. That is something that would have happened this Saturday if it was not for COVID. This was the weekend, the Saturday that was for the CIDX barbecue, which every year for the past 3 years has been live. And this weekend, it's not happening. It's a virtual Zoom meeting between us. Kamaxi 1976 forgot to unplug his RSP1A and lightning struck nearby the other day. Likely it was okay, but my TV took a hit. 2 of the 3 HDMI ports no longer work. Oh, man. Unplug your TV for 24 hours and plug it back. It might be just a glitch. Mulvania, neither Molson nor Labatt. I hate these two companies and I don't like their beers. And why don't they import the iconic Labatt 50 to the US anymore? I don't know exactly. Dr. Sisab, I think we all pretty much all feel the same. I think we pretty much all feel that we miss Radio Shack. There was some crap stuff. There was some cool stuff. There was so much stuff in there. And it was so cool. It was so cool to go to. And I miss the going to a Radio Shack store as a teenager and looking at all the stuff. I went to the Source because here all the Radio Shack stores were purchased by the Source. It ain't the same. Just looks like an ordinary electronics place that sells TVs and phones and stuff. Really boring compared to what we're used to. Gordon Lyle, my Drake R8 back in the fall of 91 was $1,059 with shipping from Universal Radio. Seems crazy. Some sellers are asking that price now for that receiver. There's a price point for everything, and there are used markets and stuff. But I will say what I say all the time. A Drake R8 was a nice radio, was the top of the line back in 1991. But it's an old radio. And it performs well, but I can tell you, for $1,000, you're going to have some really nice, you'll have an Icom IC7300 that's amazing. That's brand new technology. I'll say it again, and maybe it's just me. I don't go with this is a vintage receiver. We're going to sell it that price. When I look at old tube radios, yeah, you're going to sell me that a $700 tube radio from 1954. I'll give you $10 for it. And of course, they're going to laugh your head off. But I mean, I could pay $100 or something like that. But depending on the radio. But I'm still, and maybe it's just me. I'm still in an old radio is an old radio. It's old technology from that time, and it's not worth the same price. It's not worth whatever some are asking for these at all. But that's me. Keegan says, what is Frinker 56? Yeah, the old Magnavox D2999. That was nice looking. Well, Vania, speaking of Radio Shack, what about the DX400? These were nice portable radios. They're not the best, but they are good radios. They were good radios. Lauren Smith, if I won a lottery, what radio would you get if price was no object? I'm not sure. If I was a millionaire, I would buy Curiosity because I want to see it in action and it's nice looking. I would get an Icom ICR 8600 for sure. RJ Dakota 4055 playing music. Yeah, that's Radio Verdad in Guatemala. Clark Gilson, yeah, Radio Thailand is back at 02, but I never get the 0200 program usually. Take care, Cool AM Radio. Stay safe. What else do we have? PageMaster this time last year and recorded the frequency and time. I saw 3 letters spelled out QRZ and was on a 20-meter band, 2015. I wish I caught it on video. Huh. On 14050. Gordon Lyle, in 38 years of shortwave listening, I've gone 3 to 4 months from time to time without tuning on my receiver. Changing jobs, moving, and life happens. Oh yeah, a lot of that also is life takes you away from your hobbies. And the reason I'm in it intense is that my work life brings me into my hobby. This is, I got to say it because it's that. This is part of my work life. So I'm in the hobby because my work life is the hobby and other things. But in the regular sphere of life, work life, well, sometimes, work life, love life, everything life can take you away from your hobbies for a long, long time. Enough for some to actually forget about their hobbies pretty much. And I saw that here because so many people, either shortwave listeners or even ham radio operators, came back saying, you know what? I saw your live show or I saw your videos. It made me think that I still have that rig in a box somewhere. I should set it up and do some listening or do some ham radio operating, Pretty crazy. Meme Connect. Somebody just made spectrum painting over the UBB76 buzzer. Some are also playing music over it today. Wow. I wonder if it could be linked. There's that Ukrainian-Russian war on 7050 somewhere there. I wonder if that could be some Ukrainian-Russian war thing going over the buzzer. Thomas Olson, still dream about having a cool-looking tabletop, but will stay with a portable. Of course, we got to say it. It's true that a tabletop radio looks cool and it's nice. I've got the Yaesu FT450D here that I was looking at this week and thinking about how it needs to be used more. I got my ICOM ICRD 500 right there that is plugged on my W6LVP loop right now. These are things that are very cool looking. I mean, I look at my ICOM and I'm like, yeah, it's nice radio. I should be using it more. I should really be using it more. Daniel Kim, still gonna chat analog and DSP radios? Yeah, we were going through that pretty much. Jim, what I think about the Radio Shack DX394? I'll repeat a little bit what I was reading yesterday from someone. It's an okay radio. It was the last. That was the last tabletop-like receiver that Radio Shack ever sold. It's okay. It's sensitive, but it has several flaws, including the filters that are way too wide. Dr. Sisop, yes, KNLS is, so that shortwave station KNLS, and I'm going to tell you, KNLS is on 7355 from 12 to 15 UT, 12 to 13 in English, 14 to 15 in Mandarin. 7395, 13 to 14. And they are using 9580 kilohertz, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, and 14 to 15. 10 to 11 is in English. 11 to 12 is in R, which is, I guess, Russian. 14 to 15 in English again. So they're on 9580. 9685 from 10 to 11. 9695 from 8 to 9 and 9 to 10. They have quite a few broadcasts. 9730, 15 to 16. 9735, 11 to 12. 9740 from 13 to 14. 9760 from 15 to 16. 9795 to 12 to 13. And 11875, 8 and 10 UTC. So they have quite a few frequencies that are active. KNLS, still broadcasting out of Alaska. They do have a relay coming out of Madagascar. But from Alaska, they're still broadcasting from Alaska, and quite a few frequencies, as you see. Pretty surprising. Take care, Page Master. Stay safe. Anything else here? Let's check it out. Meme Connect, can you talk more about the radio war thing? Just a little bit. Yeah, so there's a Ukrainian-Russian radio war going on. Actually, anybody that listens to the 40-meter ham band around 70, 55 kilohertz, these guys are at it with music, with ranting, with some are sending skulls. So if you have an SDR with the waterfall, you can actually send crafted pictures that show up in the waterfall. So some are sending skulls and all sorts of designs. It is an ongoing war between some Russian hams and some Ukrainian hams. And when you said that you heard music and you heard all sorts of things like that, I wouldn't be surprised that some Ukrainian hams or somebody somewhere over there, we don't know who, is actually doing that over the buzzer. I wouldn't be surprised. And I saw a post in the Shortwave group. I think it was early this week. Somebody was actually listening to some of that fighting and that ranting going on 7050, 7055. So, Dr. Sisop is ready to put a fire drake up in Jam Radio Havana, Cuba. That'd be nice. But if I hear fire drake over Radio Havana, Cuba, I'm going to know it's you. But don't worry, I'm not going to say anything. It's just that there's a YouTube audience that knows now. That'd be nice to see somebody jam Radio Havana, Cuba. It was like, oh, look at that. It would be like, if Voice of America would or Radio Marti would decide to be on Radio Havana, Cuba's frequencies. Prasad says, after around 88, 89, I got back into the hobby just in 2018, 19, nearly 30 years gap. The biggest gap that I have would be in the, I'd say it's in the 90s. From about 1980, let me think about that. From 1995 to 2000, I don't have. There's kind of an emptiness of shortwave in my brain. And if I look at my QSL collection that I'm scanning, I think from 95 to 2000, there's a lot of emptiness. I also was part of that scanner radio craze, being a radio guy, when I got my first scanner radio and you could listen to, all the analog cell phones and cordless phones, and there was so much out there. Everything was, analog. I would say I got a craze of a scanner radio that kept me away from shortwave. There was that new radio world out there. It was so cool. And shortwave took a kind of a backside because I was trying to tune all of those VHF, UHF signals, And scanner radios, pretty much all of them did not go down to shortwave. But I did have quite a few years. Early 2000s, like I said earlier, when I moved here and the noise level was high, I had a few years of pretty much, I would say I probably never was at zero. I was at that point where it was, I don't listen to it really, but sometimes I would sit down, do something, and think, oh, I think Radio Sweden is on. I want to listen to that. So I would listen to little broadcasts here and there. When I moved here, a lot of what I did was a lot of computer stuff, playing adventure games with my sister, and I don't know. There's also, I think, that period here, the first few years when I moved here, there was not a lot of shortwave going on. Also, Joshua, nice to have you here. W4GOG. RJDA Dakota. Older McKay Dymix shortwave radios looked more like expensive hi-fi sets, and at the time looked very futuristic. Yes, Joshua, you got to get back into shortwave. Absolutely. Joshua says, been so busy, no radio time until now. That's life. Life is getting to us from time to time. Lawrence Smith, remember the Radio Shack flyers that had a coupon for a free flashlight? So you would have to buy like 5D batteries. I don't remember that, but I still remember being member of the Battery of the Month Club. And I would always get the 9-volt battery because I thought that was the best price versus with zero versus battery. The 9-volt battery was the one I wanted every month. Hey, John, nice to have you here from Boston. Joshua, Russian and Ukrainian are like 80-meter band. Yeah, there's a lot of frequency ranges where they are actually clashing, honestly. Joshua says, my gap was 2011 to 2015. Yeah. Girls and relationships are always taking everybody away from their hobbies, usually. I can already see, like, you're not going to do that radio thing tonight. We're supposed to meet up. I'm meeting with my ICOM tonight. Sounds sexy, isn't it? I'm meeting with my ICOM tonight. Garen Lyle says SDR Uno is at 1.4 RC release candidate 4. Very stable. Really like it. Basically the final version according to SDR Play website. So that's cool. I'm going to check it out. I've been keeping 1.3 for stability reasons and because I do live shows, but it'd be interesting to see the new stuff. Take care, Keegan. It was nice to have you on board as usual. Well, Matt in Denver is receiving CHU on all 3 frequencies. Wow, this is cool. Gordon Lyle, Radio New Zealand, plus 20 on 13840 here. Let's check it out here, just out of curiosity. 13840. It's there. It's not too bad. Not too bad. About S7 here, S7, S8. It's not too bad. Got to listen to it as much as I can because as we're at almost mid-August, Radio New Zealand is already, in the past week and a half, I already noticed a drop in its signal level. As we're moving into fall, I'm going to lose it. Richard Baron, nice to have you here. What small portable receiver would you recommend for listening to amateur CW? You know what's nice about the XH Data D808 is its filters go down to 500 hertz, and you can listen easily to CW with that XH Data D808. Yeah, I know, Joshua. You know what? I need to look at RAC, the Radio Amateurs of Canada. I think they're going to start a online virtual course and exam. Maybe I could do that. That'd be nice. So you know what? I'm going to check it out, and maybe I should get to the. I think it's starting soon, August the 20th or something. I think it's a Thursday night, every Thursday night and Sunday afternoon, something like that. Joshua, she's playing with my bands. Let's just hope, Joshua, that she's playing with the longest meter band possible. She Paronani. Listening to a New York Yankees game on WFAN. I hear 660 really well from New York. RJ Dakota remembers the Battery of the Month Club also, and always took advantage of that deal because I had that radio that took the 9-volt battery. Oh, man. But, that was a very, very clever way of getting us into their stores. Battery of the Month Club. You're giving us a battery that costs you pennies. But we're in your store and we see all of these goodies that we're drooling on and we're going to buy someday. That was extremely cool marketing out of their part. That was so intelligent. Give them a battery and they're going to buy some stuff from our store. That was very intelligent. Joshua, here's the station on 13840. Kamaxi 1976 says, my cousin was into ham. I remember one time he ordered food from McDonald's before he actually drove in the parking lot. Somehow you could communicate with their order speaker from the ham handset. I still remember listening to the so where I lived in the early 90s, there was a McDonald's just at the corner of the street. And I remember they had their their takeout on 30.480 megahertz here in Montreal. 30.480. Well, in Montreal, and that one where I was living there. I would tune that, and sometimes one of my fun geek moments was to listen in for an hour, and they would always give the drive-in price of whatever they ordered, and I would calculate in 1 hour how much money they were racking in from the drive-in, and it was so amazing. I was like, wow, this is so crazy, the amount of money that McDonald's makes just with a drive-in. And there's people in the restaurant too. It's like, wow, you guys are racking in cash. A lot of it too. I remember they were on 3480. They upgraded and moved to 900 megahertz that I would also be able to hear. Do you guys know if there are still some drive-in fast food joints that still have open communications in the VHF, UHF range from their drive-in? I'm curious. I would go out with the ICOM and try to tune in, see if I can hear any frequencies. I know that a lot of people seem to say that they've moved on to some kind of digital, but I'm curious. Are there some fast food joints that still use radio that we can listen to for their drive-in stuff. Dr. Sisop, they're doing online exams in the US as COVID. Yeah, same here. Radio Amateurs of Canada is doing an online course because of COVID, so that we don't meet. Garen Lyle, these days in North America are already 1 hour shorter than the June 21st. It goes fast. Yes, it does go fast. Absolutely. RJ the Dakota, outside with my radio with 11780. Nice and clear from Brazil. Cool. Yeah, that's a good idea. I should go outside in the backyard maybe with the radio tonight. Dr. Sisop, 650 WSM strong and 660 being splashed on. Butterbean, I told both my wives my hobby was hot rods and ham radio. Take it or leave it. Both came hams also. I bought this house I'm in now because it had elevation. I remember meeting someone in early 90s that actually told me, oh, so we're not seeing each other tonight because you're doing that radio stuff. That was the end of it. Yep. Radio. Bye. Take care. You know. Dr. Sisop, my Ranger 2950 went up to 3200 megahertz and drive through. I would talk to them if it was McDonald's. I remember we had I was doing a lot of biking when I had the 5. I still have him here. I need to take that out. I had, Radio Shack had the hands-free headset that you had to pack on your belt. It was a 49 megahertz 5-channel transceiver. And I would use that a lot because biking was really cool when you had headsets. And it was just 1 year, so it was not, because biking in Montreal, you're not allowed to have earphones. But that had only 1 year, so the other year was free. And it was a hands-free set, so you could talk, and when you talked, it would transmit, and that's it. The problem with it is it was on the frequencies of the cordless phones and baby monitors. The 5 channels were chosen on cordless phone and baby monitor stuff. And one day we're with our bikes, and we're near a home, and we are hearing the cordless phone really well. And I remember I said, hi. And the girl on the phone said to her girlfriend or whatever, did you just say hi? I was so close that when I talked, it was actually going over her own cordless phone signal. Good old days. But it was so funny because we would go on the bike paths and we would have signals coming in and out of all the cordless telephones of people speaking, the baby monitors all over the place. It was kind of funny at the same time. It was annoying because sometimes it was very annoying when you wanted to really have like a quiet channel. It was kind of difficult. And I remember we would change channel all the time. But at the same time, it was kind of funny to hear all of that. It was really funny to hear all of that. Yeah, the countryside is good for that, Gordon. Astronomy, shortwave radio, and all of that is perfect. In those times. SoCal 11670 radio Vancouver S7. Yeah, nice work, guys. No political shit here. That's for sure. RJ Dakota, my personal feeling is that I really don't like DST. I could leave the clock the same all year. I am for leaving the clock all year all at the same time also. But leave it on DST. Leave it on DST. Because if we leave it on standard time, here in Montreal, for example, in June, late June, early July, the sun sets at 9 p.m. If you leave it on standard, that means it would now set at 8 p.m. It would be kind of a bummer for summer. But at the same time, if you leave it on DST, that means the sun would rise here at like 8:30 a.m., 9 a.m. in the morning. I got to say that would make the mornings quite dark in the winter times. But I would rather have that because in the summer we would still stay on, Joshua, ever catch Radio Nigeria on shortwave here this afternoon? Got frequency. Yeah, 11770. And I often see their DRM on 15120. But 11770, I've seen. The problem with 11770 is their audio is often very weak, but the signal's there. Joe Sambra Newhouse, 11670, strong in Brazil. So, hey guys, been on for 2 hours and 47 minutes. We're going to take it easy for the rest of the night. I want to thank everybody for being here. We'll be back on Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, 20 hours Universal Time. And we'll have another live show. Don't forget, for everybody that's here tonight and not there next week, I am taking another week off next week. So don't look for me next week. It's 1 week on, 1 week off until September. I need to recharge the batteries. Feels good to have some time off and time for myself. So see you Friday, 20 hours UT. Hope you enjoy the show. We're going to talk about radio once again. And hope everybody is going fine. Please stay safe. It's always fun to have all of you here. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. And hope you enjoyed the shows and the videos coming up. Tomorrow, Perry Island De-Expedition. That means that tomorrow I'll be having some videos on the Shortwave channel and some videos on the VHF channel because I'm going to bring the ICOM ICR30 and some portable receiver, maybe the XH Data D808, but I don't know. So take care, everybody. Don't forget, there are a few things you need to know. CIDX, Canadian International DX Club, they have a bulletin called The Messenger that you can get once a month. If you never ask for a sample copy, CIDXclub@yahoo.com. And there's a show called the International Radio Report. Sunday morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 14:30 UTC, over CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal. You can stream, listen to the archive. It's a show that is about radio. You can also listen to that. Thanks, everybody. Always nice to have all of you here. Hey, Estrella Garcia, nice to have you on board. And stay safe. Okay? Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.